Are we here? We ready? Monty? Monty?
Your mother. Yes.
I'm gonna beat your ass. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Cocktail Social. I'm gonna send it over to Miss Karen, but she gotta unmute herself first. Miss Karen, she's driving. Well, I don't.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Go ahead, girl. Get it, girl.
I'm your fabulous feline. It's your favorite Aunt KK on the go as usual, because a mom's got to do what a mom's got to goddamn do. Bleu is not here today, or at least he's not here right now. We're missing a couple of socialites. I know that Mr. Gilmore is not going to make it tonight. Under the weather, just send him a couple of kisses or whatever, drop him a line. But I'm expecting everybody else to show up. But in the meantime, how are you, Mr. Kaiser?
I'm doing great. I am doing just delicious.
I like it.
I'm delicious. This 70-degree weather, it did something to me today.
Excuse me, let me correct you, sir. It was 81 degrees, okay?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah,
I was by some water, so it was a little bit cooler.
Okay. Yeah, Mother Nature is playing with my feelings because tomorrow's supposed to be 55 degrees. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, that's crazy. I walked out the house this morning. It was 9 o'clock, and the sun was on my foot. Actually, it was 8 o'clock. And the sun was warm. It was kissing my skin. Mwah.
Okay. Kiss. Yes. Kiss the skin. I don't know. That makes me wonder. Remember when what's her name? Tiffany Haddish went bald. I don't know. The sun on your skin, kissing your skin, it makes me fantasize.
It feels good. I'm telling you. The very first time I cut my hair bald, it was such a relief.
Yo, look at this. She is on a horse. Do y'all see that?
Who?
Did y'all see that? Black girl with Baltimore burgundy hair on a white horse. I love it.
It was a real horse?
A real live horse.
Her uncle got one of those carts. Yeah, them Arabs, and she got that. She's like, let me borrow this horse, granddad.
Right, I'll be back. Let me hold something.
Right, she just going down Baltimore Street, hair in the wind on a horse. That's her fantasy.
Leave in the air.
Oh, how has your week been?
My week was okay. It was busy. Y'all remember I kept talking about that pure romance party that I was throwing? I keep trying to tell y'all should rock with a girl because we had fun. Oh, we had fun.
I've only ever been to 2 toy parties, but the second one I was working, so I didn't really get to enjoy it. And the first one I ever did was for a girl I went to school with, and she was kind of trying to get out the business, so she was trying to sell her supplies. And I was weird. I invited my family to it. It was real weird. I don't want to talk about the stuff that went on. It wasn't like an orgy, but it was just weird to have it was in my home. Actually, it was in my mother's home because I think I was just that was my first year of college. But it was pretty interesting. It was at the time I wanted to do it, but it wasn't open to men to do the toy parties. It was only the women who were doing it at the time.
You know why? Because there still exists on the books in Maryland a law where if I show you any phallic item, I could be arrested for prostitution.
Oh,
right,
wow.
Congress people to get that thing abolished, please.
But it's whole strip clubs right next to the police department.
Sir, I don't make the law. I just follow.
I don't know if is it still the rule where you can't mix genders at the parties?
You cannot. The only way I can, like, even in the showroom, like how we take people individually to take their orders. I still cannot show, even if you and your husband come back, I still cannot show him a phallic item. She, the wife, would have to show it to him. I cannot.
That's
Yeah.
dumb. So why you
It's the
allowing me to
dumbest
even
thing
have these parties?
It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but that is what it is.
It's these suppressed, uptight ass white people that be governing our communities.
It was the old super colonial, super religious.
That was
You're
fucking everything moving. The same ones that was fucking everything that was moving created those laws. It's crazy because they were really meant to control everybody else and not them and the people they were screwing.
It's so funny how you learn so much about people's attitudes through sex, or at least I've learned so many things about people's attitudes towards sex doing these things. Like, my host shared with me, she invited a cousin of hers who is of a specific religion, and but they put out watchtowers, and this lady told her that it was against that it was against that she basically couldn't have it, that it was not biblically correct for her to have this party. And when my hostess challenged her, saying, show it to me in the Bible, the lady, of course, did not produce scripture to support her argument, and then proceeded to ask her, well, send me a plate. And to which my hostess responded, no, because this is heathen food. So
not send me a plate.
So
that's what she wanted an invitation. That's what it was. She didn't get invited.
She was invited.
She was?
She was invited, and that was her response. No, I can't come, and you shouldn't have this because this is not, basically biblically correct.
She didn't know who was going to be in attendance. That's what it was.
Maybe that's what it was.
She wanted to know who was going to be there.
Yeah.
She thought it might go on Facebook Live. She didn't want a picture on Facebook Live. That's what
happens at my parties. Vegas rules apply at my parties, honey. What happens in the room stays in the room, darling.
I remember one of the things I remember is me, my aunt's boyfriend at the time, and some other guy. I forgot the other guy. She had brought these tasty cakes, the crumpets, and the ones with the jelly in the middle, and we had to lick the jelly out of. That's why I said this was a weird ass party, because these were family members. We had to lick the jelly out of the crumpet without damaging the crumpet.
Oh, so you had to suck it out.
Yeah. Well, you really had to lick it out. You had to really, yeah. Well, I didn't at the time. I wasn't licking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great game.
So I lost the game. I lost that round. My uncle won that game. It's weird. The things that we are some broken black people. We was at a whole sex party with family members.
I hosted the one that I did. My mom and my aunt were there, and my
mom was there. I didn't want to say my mom was there, but my mother was there. Her cousins was there. My cousins was there. My aunt.
My mom was there. She was at first. She was against it. She was like, I don't want to sit in a room while my daughter discusses sex and toys and things like that.
Until the game started. Right.
She could be
until the game started. That's how my aunt and my mother was. That's how my aunt and my mother was, and I went to go stand out on the porch and came back into the living room, and them two playing to put the condom on the banana game. I'm like, where does this go? What's going on here? What is?
That's a lot.
Them two battling each. I'm like, oh, this is sick on so many different levels.
Yeah,
it'll come out in the book.
To each his own. I'm not doing that. No. I'm not only because I feel like everybody has their own thing. The reason why I don't do it is because I'm a person who doesn't believe in calling out your bedroom in public. If you understand my meaning.
Yeah, so, you were raised good. You're
terrible.
You had good upbringing.
Yeah, I don't believe in calling your bedroom out in public. So don't be doing all that, and don't be doing all that in front of my man and her man and your man too, or in front of
But that's the thing. And now we have a new age singer. What's her name? Her or the other girl?
Wait a minute, not her or the other girl. You talking about
just making it
When I
okay for everybody to swip and swap. Yeah, scissor.
take mine on the
Making it
weekend.
that everybody's swapping.
So
Right.
about
I'm not good.
that song, I think that song is really sad.
It is. Because she's saying you can have them
She's
on the week. I
settling.
just want them on the weekend.
She's settling. I'm okay to take second place. It's fine. I'll just take the
Mhm.
weekend. You
I
can
mean, I
have
think
Monday
both of
through
them are sad because they're communicating with each other the time of week that they prefer to have him. So I think it's sad on all three of their behalves. And probably it's probably about 4 or 5 other people that they're sharing him with. So baby, while you got him on a weekend, do you got him in the morning or the evening? You know, and
Ooh,
does your
you
weekend
talking good now.
right? Does your weekend start on Fridays? Because somebody else got them on Fridays. Because I need you
Ooh.
to understand that.
And
I'm
is there
not with that
condoms
sharing
in
thing.
play? Are there condoms in play? Because HPV is real and can lead to all kinds of cancers in your uterus
Well, they'll
and in
cross
your
that
mouth.
bridge when they get to it. Oh,
Don't
okay.
think about it. Yeah, because
Yeah.
HPV can live in your mouth just like gonorrhea, syphilis, and chlamydia. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, that take me back to those pictures we got in sex ed class with the bumps and them. Oh
Ooh.
Lord, that just made me. Oh no, I don't want to do that. That leads me to. I watched some snippets of. So let me just say, I have a bias against the National Geographic, because they did uh they started doing these personal human stories
Okay.
outside of Animal Planet stories and documentaries and such.
Okay.
And they did one of Lexington Market. And it was
Okay.
around the same time as Freddie Gray. So that the city was already on edge. And for this to come out on Lexington Market, I had a problem with that. Like, and it was built to be something else, but they made it about people getting high in Lexington Market, the drug
Really?
trade. Right.
Really?
And
Of
there's a
all
way to
the
do
things.
stuff like that, but we in the midst of a whole civil war in our city, and you are adding to it how. So when they said this was coming out on that channel, I was really like, I'm not for it. And then we
Can
have the
somebody put the link? Can you put the link in the chat at some point?
for the story.
Yeah.
What for the movie or for this show?
Yeah, for the movie or the
Oh, okay.
doc or the article or whatever it is.
Yeah. I'll definitely I'll put that in, yeah, I'll put that in there. But
Thanks.
so when they said Aretha Franklin's story was being done, I was like, oh, that's tacky. No, I was already against it. And then when they said who was playing Aretha, I was like, okay, I see where y'all was going. She got the little chinky eyes, the little round face, the little cheeks. I get it. I get it. I still didn't. I think she could sing. And then they said she wouldn't be doing voiceover. She'll be singing at herself. It's like, I'm already side.
And
And
who
then
was it?
uh, what's her name? Evero. What's her name? Ooh, I can't even remember her name.
Okay.
But she acting wise, from the snippets that I've seen, she did a pretty good job acting because she's a good actor. She also played Celie on Broadway, which she was phenomenal in.
Okay.
So she's a great actress and she can actually sing. But anybody who would be adventurous enough to sing Aretha song, you bold. First of all, so I give you props for being that bold, but baby, it didn't. It didn't have the soul in it. Like she probably was Presbyterian. Like I don't know, baby Catholic. I don't know, but it definitely wasn't Pentecostal or Baptist or Kojic. It wasn't any of those.
You didn't
Because it
feel
was
church
just
enough.
it did, and I said that on my other radio show, and they was like, "Nang, you been nanging him." No, I just feel like
Cynthia.
you gotta have a little so. Yeah, that's her name. But she did a pretty. I mean, she could sing. It was a good rendition. She got a little yang 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 voice, but it wasn't Aretha. So I would have preferred for her to do the same thing that they did in the Tina Turner story. Even though Angela Bassett is not a singer,
Right.
but I would have rather heard her voice. And I wonder if they just couldn't get the rights. Well, they was able to sing the song, so they had the rights. But I would have preferred them have that. my ultimate issue was Aretha Franklin had already started the ball in motion to doing her own Broadway show. But when she died, it got switched to being a movie, and they casted what's her name? Well, she had already casted Jennifer Hudson in it, and then these white people just went right behind her and did what they always do, on the momentum, all that free press that Jennifer Hudson was doing for that movie, and made their TV series out of it. And it was just, what if y'all would have just combined efforts? It would have been an awesome movie that she would have deserved to have. Like, but they just had to be sneaky and come in. And I think it's going to undermine the approved version. But this, I mean, do you know Aretha Franklin's story? You said you read a book.
Yeah, I read the book.
When I say, oh my God, one of the snippets that I saw, it was her revealing at the age of 12 that she was pregnant for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's one little snippet. Grandma, my stomach hurt. It gets me, like, it makes me giggle because it makes me uncomfortable that this is happening, and we're seeing how this happened on a gospel circuit tour. She got pregnant. Not to say that these people aren't human too, but they were mostly adults on that tour, and she was the youngest thing on that tour. It said that she had a relationship with Sam Cooke at 12.
They lived down the street from one another.
Oh my God, that's
They were neighbors.
She was infatuated with that man, and you can tell he touched her inappropriately. But that was just something that I guess that went on at that time.
Weren't they all the same age, though?
No, Sam Cooke was 23 when she was 12.
Oh, Jesus, I was under the impression they were all the same age.
No, they made it seem that way. You would have thought the way they talked about it, it was so normal. He was like 22, 23 when she met him. Yeah. Crazy. But I guess it says a lot about why a lot of our aunties and uncles are so screwed up, because that's the life that they led at that time. Is that my screen, Monty, or hers?
She frozen.
Okay, I was just making sure. It's normally big, so I didn't know whether it was me or not. But yeah, it's that movie, Monty.
Oh,
it's weird.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
But I was saying, like, now we understand why a lot of our aunties and moms and even uncles are so screwed up, because that's the life. That's the culture that they came from. Somebody want to talk to you.
No, that was my Spotify just decided to arbitrarily kick in and give us some background music.
But that was now, and hearing stories like this, it just, I'm one of them people who love The Color Purple, who love, the Tina Turner story. So we're seeing why many of our grandparents, our aunties, our great cousins are so screwed up. But because they walk through life unprotected.
Not only that, it's so funny because my cousin, she lives in California. We were having this conversation this morning about how we were exposed and had like a front row seat to a lot of trauma, but it was normalized to us that we didn't even realize what we lived in. Like I was, as strange as it may seem, you know how there are certain smells and sounds and things that like take you back to your childhood and it's almost comforting to you?
Yeah.
One of those things for me, and it is strange, but it's true, is the smell of a sweaty, drunk old man. Because that's what I grew up around as a kid. Like, they were the boyfriends of my grandmother and her sisters and all of those things. And it sounds bad like that, but they were, I was safe with them until I was not. You know what I mean? You never.
But that's it's weird though, because we hear about the perfect stories where grandpa and grandma have been married for 70 years and my mom and dad been, but a lot of us did not have that story. So a lot of us saw grandma with a boyfriend, which
My
sounds very strange. Like I grew up and my grandmother had a boyfriend who was abusive. So you know these things to be true. And you wonder, you have family members where they beat the boyfriend up or they beat the person up, or but then you have families where it's normal not to do anything.
my grandmother's boyfriend. I only saw him sober maybe 3 times ever in my life, and it was like Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When he was sober, he was a very, very quiet, almost invisible
Hmm.
man,
Yeah.
and we were together for decades. And when he died, my grandmother was not even a byword in the obituary. Why? Because he was still married
Yeah.
with children.
I've seen that. I've seen that. I've
Grandmother was
seen that.
mentioned as a special friend in the obituary, but
Mm.
she cared that man in his illness until he died. You understand? Like this is the kind of stuff that we see and is normalized in our communities, but we just take it for what it is.
And the surviving girlfriends and wives, they make it personal. Like, you had him all his life, but guess who about to do this funeral? I've seen that.
My mother, I ain't see that. I don't know. My grandmother was graceful.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the other woman wasn't. For her not to be mentioned in it, and this the person he was with his whole adult life, and you don't. But it's just weird some of the stuff that movies like this are going to bring up and trigger in people. I still can't get over the fact how they just went on with this little 12-year, 13-year-old girl with a baby.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I personally have seen this story,
Mm-hmm.
but we normalize it. One of my friends had gotten pregnant when she was, I think we were in middle school. And her
Mm-hmm.
mother said, we're not having a baby shower. She
Right.
said, people can give you things that can help you, but we're not celebrating this.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever seen a mother put her foot down, or a parent in general, because it was her mother and her father saying, we're not celebrating this.
Right.
We're not gonna make you get rid of this, but we're not celebrating this. So she didn't have a party. Her friends tried to sneak. Well, we tried to sneak and do something for it, and our parents shut that down.
Yeah.
But it's weird that, and we talk a lot. I hear a lot of older people talking about these young people having babies and having sex, and this was part of life, and it's been a part of life. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. The
I
only
think actually these young people are doing things differently though.
you want to come home with me? Yeah, that's because now they do things openly. They do things boldly. Whereas back in the day, they would cover up your sin. They would cover it up
Yeah,
with lies, but they would cover it up. You got pregnant at 12, you got sent uh upstate or down the
yeah.
country, then you would come back and have a new little brother or sister. And
But her story was different because her father was a prominent Baptist priest. I said priest, pastor. And how do you hide that? He was taking her out on a road with. How do you hide this?
well, you can't because she was on the road. Who he gonna send it to?
He knew this little girl had a hangover and didn't do. I was like, that's the snippets that I was watching. I was like, this, I'm not doing this.
I mean,
Mm-mm.
clearly, it was more to that story than what was being said. Anytime you telling me that in the movie it showed that her father was having relations with 12-year-old girls himself, and here his
Well,
12-year-old daughter has a hangover. He clearly knows something about 12-year-old girls having hangovers, and it's okay with it.
because he had one.
Hello and thank you.
And we both read the books, but I read some other stories around it and saw a lot of interviews from other people. And her story was that of, they kept this pristine image that everybody knew was a falsehood, like while her mother left. Her mother left because he had a whole relationship with a 12-year-old
Right.
who she forgave him for. She forgave him for that,
Oh my
came
God.
back, and he still was cheating on her. And her mother just couldn't take it no more. And he wouldn't allow her to take the children with her. And he had children outside of that marriage. Like it's a scene that one of the things that I saw was her discovering that she was pregnant with Aretha's younger sister. And she went to the store to go pick up her baby, what you call it, the crib, and realized Franklin's name was on two different cribs. That's how she realized it was another baby.
Oh my God.
It was another baby, and it was a 12-year-old. She went to the home and she saw them outside, and she saw the young lady come out the house, and she had her pregnant. So her and this 12-year-old were pregnant at the same time.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
And that, a lot of what we talk about, especially on this show, about the church and all the secrets.
That's a sore spot for me.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of it in these situations, the reason I fight against it is because I'm a Christian. So I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. I've sinned. But I know that we often look at the messenger over the building, over the message. And sometimes that's not healthy, but these messengers, come on now. We got the present day one, Jamal Bryant, that's out there just tossing it up. Who I don't know if he still is, but we know he was when he was up in Park Heights.
Wow.
I don't know what you're doing down in Atlanta, but we know Park Heights was hot on that little corridor.
Stop it.
I mean, everybody not lying, but
it all be a falsehood.
Allegedly. I don't want Jamal Bryant to sue me. Allegedly. Okay. But I just, that, I mean, we would, the idea of sexuality and what that means to somebody that's young, like, how do you get exposed at 12? And I'm wondering, was that her first time at 12? If that's the case, did somebody touch her before?
Right.
I just.
Right. Because at 12 years old, like.
That autobiography on her. So Dinah Washington was allegedly a friend of the family, but I think her dad and her were fooling around too. And her boyfriend at the time ended up, and Aretha was younger than 12 at the time. Her boyfriend, Dinah Washington's boyfriend, wound up being Aretha Franklin's first husband.
Wait, what?
Right. Who she was introduced to by Dinah Washington. Dinah Washington was like her surrogate mom or a good friend of the family. And her boyfriend at the time, who both of them were grown as people, like her dad's age, he ended up being Aretha Franklin's first husband.
That's crazy as hell.
I just can't, and we still don't know who them children's father is.
You ain't never lied.
That first child. She got the duo camera. She is pimping. So how does sexuality play a part in all of this? Like, where does that?
As far as what you mean?
Just like the way it's passed down. Like most Black families, we don't talk about sex to our children, so they're then left to learn about sex from friends, from the neighborhood freak, from the person who hits on them as a child.
I really think that it is according to, based on my experience, I'm going to say when I do my own 2 + 2 = Jello and my own experiences, I'm going to say it depends on the experience of the parents and the experience of the parents' parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because my mother was very open talking to me and my brother about sex. She's very open in explaining to me about my body, giving me clinical terms for my body. I mean, of course, she had pet names for body parts, but when I learned about my body, she used clinical terms. This is your vagina. This is just for you. Only people who should be touching your vagina is the doctor and mommy when she's washing you. Like, I was young learning about my body. You know, if anybody touches you in your vagina, then, you know, you need to tell mommy, you need to tell daddy, you need to tell grandma. But outside of that, like, as I'm growing, as I'm learning, she's teaching me different things along the way. And there was nothing that I could not tell my mother about. Right. Even as I grew older and began to experiment with different things, I knew that I could come and tell my mother anything. But I have friends who didn't know they didn't know enough about their body to know that they had a yeast infection. You know what I mean? Like, they thought that they were dying. They thought they had an STD because they had a yeast infection. They didn't know enough about their bodies to know that sometimes you may have discharge. Like, there are grown women out there who still don't know that you don't pee out of the same place that you have your menstrual cycle. There are, you know what I mean? Like, there are women who just don't know because they weren't taught.
And I'm speaking as a guy. And I'm not that much behind you age-wise. I didn't get those conversations. Yeah, you know, my sexual experience was walking in on one of my various uncles having sex, and that drawing my curiosity about what sex was, or having cable in my room. So that meant I could watch the Playboy channel, because there was a moment where cable, you couldn't block certain channels. You know, and me having a floor, telling my age, I had a floor model color TV, that big box thing that sit on the floor, and it had a cable box on it in my room. And this was like elementary school.
So you were fully immersed in the oh my God.
So sex growing up, you know, now it's different, but growing up, sex was a taboo. It was something that you didn't talk about. You know, or, you know, when my mom got remarried to my stepdad, you know, finding his porns and watching it and just having this. I don't think I had a obsession to porn, but it was just so, it got so much. I took one to school one time and had
people
watching it. Yeah, we were watching it in school. Like, and I could have been expelled. I could have been. This was a Catholic school, so I could have been.
Oh yeah,
hell and damnation against me. And you know, it was crazy, because I think a part of me was trying to say, look, tell me something. Tell me what this is.
You didn't know what it was.
And even the headmaster, the principal at the time, headmaster is the principal in Catholic schools. We're not talking about sex terms.
It's fine. No, I got you.
The headmaster not just taking the video from me, saying, you can't get this back until your mother come up here. You know, damn well I'm not telling my mother it's going up here. So you might as well keep that, sir. But even in that situation, not him not talking to me. And it wasn't until another young man in our school got in trouble for trying to buy condoms that in middle school we had to have sex. This was middle school. Not to say it mattered, but he got in trouble for it. You know, the store owner told his grandfather, and I guess the grandfather came to the school to get some help. And my situation and his situation together caused us to have a sex ed class. And like, I think that was like the seventh or eighth grade. And even with that, it was a lady who came to the school for sex ed, and she brought this phallus, this brown phallus. It was attached to this big metal clunky thing, and it was just like floppy. And I remember her saying, when you have sex, is not going to be about the moons and the stars. It's going to be a feeling, and it's going to last for a certain period of time. It's going to go away, and then you do it again, and it's going. And the whole point of the sex ed class that time was for all of us to touch the penis. and that sparked shame for me. Like
Yeah.
that made it more shameful because all of us were uncomfortable touching this other penis, this
Right.
dildo, basically.
Right.
And that was I don't know if that was her angle or her telling us. I'm quite sure as an adult I can see now. And all of y'all have one. Look,
Right.
here's one. Touch it. But it was
Yeah.
uncomfortable because you are a woman
Right.
and all of these men in this school didn't have the words to tell us. So they
Right.
brought this black woman in to give us a sex ed talk. And mind you, I went to school in the middle of Mount Vernon. So walking to and from school, I'm watching dudes suck off other dudes.
Yeah. That's
If you come
crazy.
and I came to school really early, and we didn't leave school till almost 7 o'clock, so it looked like this outside now. So you would see all types of things going on. So just
I
imagine
can't
all of that
imagine.
going on, right? And I didn't get that conversation at home. So sex was something that I had to learn
On the fly.
on the fly, the hard way.
And see, for me, it was, I don't know, my experience is so weird only because I told my son this actually last night. Like, for me, it feels like I've always known two things. I've always known
Mhm.
what weed and sex was
Right.
from very, very little, only because I'm a child sex trauma survivor. So
Mhm.
like I had that experience. So it just seems like I've always known weed and sex.
Mhm.
Um, but even still, I just have this open-mindedness towards
But you were
sex.
given that though. You were given that comfortability, and you walked in it. Some people just don't walk in it. Some
Yeah,
people aren't given that. I
yeah,
think a lot. I think my whole and I, we jokingly talked about our first sexual experience, and I
yeah,
told mine,
yeah.
and it was uncomfortable. It was very
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and within that same year, I was molested. So the
Oh wow.
extremes of being pressured into it, and
And then
right before that, being forced to do it.
yeah,
So I know, and it's not to blame my mom because my mom can only give me what she was
what
given.
she had, true.
And my grandmother had 11 children. So
Oh yeah,
did she
yeah.
really know about same sex or body count? But so I think, I'm very gracious when I meet parents like you who have had the experience themselves, but then they give their child the experience. Because
Yeah.
I know people who have gotten the experience and are still stuck in the embarrassment part of it or the shame of it and don't give it to their children. So some grown ass person is giving your child their
And
hands on sex experience.
yeah, and I feel like I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum because
Hmm.
I give it to my son as freely as it was given to me and he don't want it. And I think it's just because I'm a female and he's a male.
Well, somebody
And he's
somebody
just
paid the
like,
price for that.
no. He's like, no, don't. Like that's weird. But then again,
But give it to him regardless.
oh
How,
yeah.
at some point when he your child
Well,
is much
he's
older, right?
20, he's 22
Yeah,
now, but
yeah.
at
But
the
I
time he
tell
wasn't here
parents,
for it.
when you start seeing stuff growing, put the condoms on the table
Oh no,
because
before that.
you don't want a child or diseases
Yeah, I
coming
think
in that door.
I think you should start as young as kindergarten. And when I say as young as kindergarten, of course, you have to taper it to the child's age and their understanding,
Hmm.
like where babies come from. Babies don't come from a stork. Babies come from a mommy and a daddy. And that
And
is
you
the
can't
truth.
even dumb it down because I was in elementary school when I first found those poems. So I saw sex. And I know
Yeah,
I
you
was
saw it,
watching.
but your brain would not have been ready for the true scientific mechanics of it.
I'm telling you, we many people grow up according to their age, and some people don't. And I just wasn't
Well,
that one.
true. Some
And
grew up according
and
to their
and some,
experiences.
I remember at this point I knew what
You're
sex
right.
was, and I had a friend who came to school, and he was, weird, and he was talking about when he pee, white stuff come out, and I was like, knowing at this point, knowing what the hell going on.
Mm.
And me and my other friend, we knew like we would he would give me his stepdad tape, and I would give him my stepdad tape, and we knew
What he was
either
talking
somebody
about.
was touching him or he had seen something.
Right.
Because we was in elementary school. So if you
Right.
got white stuff coming out, either something medically wrong with you, or you watching white stuff come out of somebody else.
Right.
And you don't really know what you're talking about. So I know that level of ignorance, but
Right.
still the ignorance level of children does not negate what they've actually seen.
Right.
I'm
Their
ignorant because of
inability
my
to express what they're
experience.
saying. Yeah, I
Right.
understand
I
what
don't
you're
have the
saying.
vocabulary or the understanding of even if I have the vocabulary, but that doesn't negate what I've actually seen. And I
True.
think some parents, well, they don't know because it happened. I was in the TV, I was in the room. My great grandmother was sitting in the living room with me, but she had dozed off, and I didn't. We had one of those shotgun homes.
Yeah.
So the living room, you could see directly into down the hallway to the living room. And I guess my mother and her friends were seeing the TV. And I just didn't think anybody was paying attention. And I was flicking through the channel. And like I said, the Playboy channel was a channel.
Right.
And I stopped. And when I heard my mother's voice, I clicked the channel. She said, no, turn it back. And she made me watch it in front of my great grandmother, in front of her friend, in front of her. And it took a bit of it took the shame out of, or the sneakiness out of it, rather. But I then I had to just become very covert about it. Like, I can't watch this stuff. So that's why now when y'all talk about watching porn, I did that. It doesn't entice me.
Right.
I've done that. Playboy was so watered down. But
compared to what they got out here now.
Right, but compared to me being 7, 8, 9 watching it, like that was something. Like, I thought that's what sex was.
Yeah, Tamika says she cannot recall having conversations about the pleasure of sex.
Nope.
And that's one of the things that we talked about at the party, is that so many people, specifically women, don't get to experience orgasm from sex. And she said, I feel like older generations made sex a taboo. They really did. And especially about the pleasure of sex, everything was, no, don't do it. From out of the older generation, I'll say, especially like, even my mom, like, as open as my mother was, like, the talks weren't about the pleasures of sex. It was just, this is what sex is. This is the context in which sex should be held. You should wait. She never said wait until marriage. I didn't know what I was waiting for.
Saying that.
But I was just supposed to wait.
Was it a feeling? Was it an age? You didn't know.
You wait because you're not ready. Wait until you're ready.
Yeah.
But when I was ready and I came and told her I was ready, no, you're not ready yet.
Yeah. And it's that, parents and both of us agree our parents were good moms or good parents.
I would say
so. But you still got more information than I did. But look, your mom was still doing that thing that mothers do, giving you enough so you can get by in that moment, because they don't want to let you go. Yeah. Not realizing you're going to go regardless.
You're going to go regardless. I wish. So I am, because of the type of person that I am and the type of parent that I am, I wanted my son to have every opportunity to experience the pleasures of sex and do it safely.
Yeah.
I gave him personal lubricant for himself. He rejected it. Basically, Mom, you weigh up in my applesauce. Don't do that type of thing. When my niece turned 18, I gave her a vibrator because I felt like, okay, you're 18, you're still a virgin. You may not be ready to go there yet, but you might be having sensations. So here you go. I want you to explore what makes you feel good. So you don't have to be thirsty chasing after no dude for him to tell you what makes you feel good. You can't be, I feel like you can't depend on someone else to tell you what makes you feel good. You need to be able to communicate to someone else how to pleasure you. Yeah, how to pleasure you. Yeah. If I don't know what makes me feel good, how can I tell you what makes me feel good?
And I'm saying to you, and I'm sure you've heard this from Blue and from Jonathan and other men in your life. A lot of us guys grew up the same way, not knowing what feel what feels good. And just because you come don't mean you've had an orgasm.
Right.
Because for a guy at a certain age, you
That's
could
just an
just
autonomic response.
right, you could just it could rub up against your jeans and
Sploosh.
right. And it's not and it took me years to be comfortable to even speak about sex
Yeah.
publicly because I did not have the verbiage. I
Yeah.
just know what I saw. So my attack on sex was what I saw
Yeah.
and living up to a porn, which is the problem of a lot
Oh
of,
gosh.
I believe,
Yeah.
a lot of people in general now, because women have this high standard based on what these porn stars are doing, and then guys feel the
I don't
pressure
think
to be
so.
able to live up. I mean, for the most, because porns have turned into music videos. So now I gotta give you that same feel. It's beyond just a feeling. There's a lot of technical aspects to it.
But
You
I
know.
disagree. And Tamika, I want you to chime in on this too.
Uh-huh.
Like, I disagree that we women want you to live up to porn star status only
No,
because
no, I meant in terms of personal lives. Like men are looking at the men and women are looking at the women, and we both trying to live up to that standard. That if you don't have the information,
oh
we're
oh
trying to
oh
live up to what that is for you personally,
oh
not
yeah.
what the other person is giving you. Because I think to a certain degree, that whole I want an anaconda until you get an anaconda, and you like, oh, this shit, oh, this is nice to look at, but
Yeah.
we have these false representation of what is real,
Yeah.
and it's not. We are doing our children a disjustice with us not being educated
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
with us not knowing, with us being ashamed to talk to children about it. It's just I'll never forget. One time I did a summer camp, and one of my campers, he was probably like 17. The camp was over for that day, and he came back. He came knocking on the door. I went to go open up the door. I'm like, "What, you forgot something?" And he came in, and begrudgingly, he basically told me he was on fire down there. So
Oh my
for
God.
me, as a dude who hadn't had an STD, I'm like, maybe you just got some soap in it. So I gave him a cup. I said, go fill this up with some water, pee in it, and then we go from that point. So he was like, well, it feel better, but it's still on fire. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so what's being ignorant? What's the problem? He said, I think I may, you know,
Oh
got
my
something.
God.
This is a 17-year-old, and I probably was like just before 30. I probably like 27, 28 at the
Oh
time. So him giving me information
right.
and then me having to then go to 15-15 with him because he was uncomfortable talking to his mother. And
Yeah.
then later on, me and his mom had a confrontation. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying, your son talked to me about shit he won't talk to you about. And this boy just met me through youth works.
Right.
He just met me. And
Right.
he's not comfortable talking to you
Yeah.
about shit that's going on with him. And
That's
it's embarrassing, but it made me think about, that's why when we as Black people separate ourselves based on being what our orientation is or our gender is, I think it's crazy because many of us grow up with the same level of ignorance. I just got an Audi and you got an Emmy, and that's it. Like, and that sounds very juvenile, but at the base form of it, that's what it is. But it's so many ignorance that lead to so much trouble
yeah. Tamika
and
said we do
diseases and
have.
babies. Go ahead.
Yeah, she said we do have false expectations, especially if you are a directed porn watcher. I'll agree. I had a conversation the other day where
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to explain how we were talking about the whole how grown women still don't know their bodies as far
Yeah.
as being able to achieve orgasms. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to explain that because I was talking to a male and they were saying how, well, men, we know our bodies, we know how to make ourselves come. And I'm like,
No.
you have to understand that from the time we start having sex, especially if we start having sex young, a woman's ability to achieve orgasm is subject to the partner that they're with, is subject to their ability to control their own orgasm. So if y'all come first, our ability to achieve orgasm is just done. Like,
and that's a lie because men
yeah.
don't know their bodies. Because if men
Right.
were in tune with their bodies, they would understand when their sex partner is in pain or not receiving pleasure. Because
Right.
that makes you in tune with what you're doing. A man just feels what he feels, and
Right.
he's just trying to get that. You know, most guys don't even. There's this mythical thing. My uncle used to tell me, you know, you better figure out what your number is so you know how to
Stroke
please.
number.
Right, so you know how to please them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what? Well, how the fuck I get to my number? And he
Yeah.
was like, how many times it takes to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop?
Right.
And I was like, what the hell are you talking? Now I'm looking at the commercial confused as hell because now I'm equating this commercial with sex because he just told me information that is understandable. It's good information, but how it pertains to me, if you don't know your body and you claim you do, you're not in tune with your partner. So I'm just having sex. That's why most guys come first because they're not really into, or your best sexual partner paid attention to you. That's normally what equates.
Yeah.
It's normally the dumb nigga, but
so
hey, it happens.
You 16 years old, all you know is it's wet and it's warm and it's good. And she's 16 and she don't know like what it's gonna take to make her come. Like she's not masturbating, she don't know what's good. All she knows is this dude is here, and then boom, it's over, and she just barely getting into the motions. And you go through life trying to figure it out. Like, I just feel like if you don't know your body,
either one of y'all have the information for the other person. So both of y'all going through doing things that's not really pleasing to you. Because at some point, a guy realizes, I can get my own nut. I don't really need you. I like the way that feels, but...
And for most women, unless you got a guy who is experienced enough, patient enough, and giving enough to say, wait a minute, I want you to get yours first, or is giving enough to like wait for you to get yours, then...
But she has to be strong enough, the woman has to be strong enough to say, no, that don't feel good.
But wait a minute.
Get up off of me.
In a perfect world, the woman who says that has to have a partner who is strong enough to take it, because the male ego is like fine china.
Well, he got to break it. It's glue out there. He can put pieces up back together. But women got to stop thinking about that. If it don't feel good to you, stop.
You know, saying, well, wait a minute, wait. Now, it may not necessarily hurt, but sometimes go, wait, man, hold on, slow down, or not that here, or why don't you start here first? Some women don't know they need that one, or the ones that do know it may end up with a partner that's just not willing to listen. You know what I'm saying? But it's a combination of a whole bunch of things. And sometimes it just takes a perfect storm to get you where you need to be.
Or, that's why you have a lot of, people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s feeling like they're living their best life because they've gone through all of these emotional roller coaster moments and they have an understanding about self. That's why when you look at somebody that age, it's just like nothing can faze them because they've been through it. Either they go stay stuck in their ways or they go ultimately change. And that, I don't want to be 70 still trying to get it. And this pandemic has really forced me to pause and get rid of a lot of those things that I was carrying, like, sexual identity, and not even sexual preference or your origin, but just sexual identity in terms of what I like, what I'm comfortable with talking about. Because it literally, it was a moment where we grew up having these am I still frozen?
No, you're not. You're fine.
We grew up having these conversations, and I was always uncomfortable having them. And it was just, it was based on, because it was never anything a romance. Because your son may be uncomfortable now, but I can almost with certainty tell you he is passing that information along when he's having conversations. I'm telling you. It may be, and it would have. I would have just exploded into a million pieces if my mother would have said anything resembling sex.
Well, one
But
thing.
it would have given me so much to go off of.
Well, one thing I can say that I'm
Go
proud
ahead.
of him for, and I hope that he's not too embarrassed if he's watching that I'm going to say this, is that I always came to him. I always came to him. But when it was time for him to cross that threshold into, losing his virginity, he didn't come to me, but he knew that information was
Mm-hmm.
out there and information was free. So he went and purchased the book.
Mm-hmm.
For all you gentlemen out there, this is the best thing you can do. The name of the book was called She Comes First. He went and got learned. He went and got learned.
Oh, he did come to you. He did come to you because you had already given him the pieces.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
you did, and that's the as the children grow older, you have to give them that space to be able to take the options that you've given them with their instinct so they can then make choices.
Yeah.
But parents try to make the choices for their children or just throw them out there with no resources. But you had given him the information. You don't think he was reading, like sneaking in and reading some of those books that you give out at your parties or some of the information you may use for your business? Like children, dude, I know I did it, but I did it backwards. I just was going through like the tapes. Like, oh, let me look at this tape. I had gotten so good. I knew how to fast forward and rewind before it was a function on the, like, I knew how to do it because I had to leave it the way I found it. But it just becomes but it's just the ignorance that we grow up with, and we adapt us. Even in ignorance, we are growing an ideal. So we grow up with information that may be false.
Yes.
If I'd have went by what my friend said to me that time about white stuff coming out, like I would have been, but I had a little reference point of what the white stuff was, and like, dude, you ain't got no white stuff. What man you been messing with, little boy?
That's funny.
Or what man you been watching?
Yeah.
Right. So I just, many of us, especially, and I think young men grow up with the curiosity more, but it's a urge, and you just want to. It's not even about seeing. Like somebody I was dating was like I may be a voyeur because I just like watching, and for me, it's because I didn't have the information. Because these movies that you learn as an adult, these movies are not real. There's a fluffer somewhere,
everybody got a
cut,
job.
paste, right? They are
Everybody got a
cut
job.
and sliced together. Ain't nobody having sex for no hour and a half straight unless you own one.
Wow.
But we learn like it's ways to achieve that.
Yeah.
But you ain't going to work tomorrow when you do that.
So let me ask you this, okay?
It ain't happening.
Now you said
Not
that
on
now
time.
you're starting to broaden your mind as far as the things that you like or whatever. Like, what are some things that you have? You don't have to say whether or not you like it or not, but what are some things that you have maybe been exposed to, or that somebody has made mention of that you maybe your attitude toward that thing has changed now that you know more about it, or now that you have been introduced to it? You don't necessarily have to have been
Oral
exposed to it or
sex.
participated in
I
it.
told you
Really?
my first experience with a vagina in my face was horrible.
Yes.
It was horrible.
It sounds traumatic.
It was hard. And some little girls who aren't taught how to wipe themselves don't smell good.
Yeah.
So imagine
Grown
the
women
men out
too.
here who don't like giving oral sex is because they may have run into that young lady. And that definitely was me.
Okay.
You smell like shit. I ain't even smelled it. Well, you gonna smell like shit. You don't wipe yourself good enough.
Okay. Fair enough.
And that was, and even what pleasure was, because I said in middle school we got the sex ed talk, but I had already been watching porn up until that point. So, Miss, what are you really saying? And I got into trouble for raising my hand, like, Miss, can you just tell us the truth? Because all this technical stuff it's going over my head, and the rest of us are falling asleep. So And she came out of she's like, how do you know so much? And I
Yeah.
couldn't just say it.
Right.
But the headmaster was right there who took the movie from me. So he
Right.
knew, oh, this boy. And then the other boy in my class, he had the sex. So we
Yeah.
know what we doing. Miss, do you know?
Let you tell it.
Right. Like, exactly. Like, because I could have gave a much better class at that point than she was giving.
Be
Because
like,
she was
and
somebody's black
then
mother.
you turn her around and bend her over and you stick it
Right.
up her butt.
Right.
That's how that
But
goes.
the information she was given with the raw knowledge that I had would have made sense. And I think would have helped a lot of. I'm not saying sit down and watch a porn with your child, but I'm
No.
saying your child is going to get that information one way or another, unless
Yeah.
you have if you're, people don't have porn anymore, like porn tapes anymore. But if your child is using the same computer as you, they will stumble across something you watch.
Yeah.
So now they're curious.
Yeah, Tula said her daughter used to hate it when she tried to give her information about sex, but she gave it anyway.
Let her hate it.
You had to. I told him 3 different times about how time for me to take vitamins. Okay.
But at the same time, your child hated Brussels sprouts, but then you make them eat it.
What happened?
Your child hated certain things. Your child hated wearing certain things, but you still made them wear them Easter shoes.
Yeah.
You didn't change you may have changed your approach, but the information still came out the same way. You still gave it to them.
Yeah.
I didn't like eating black eyed peas, and I sit at that table many nights.
Looking sad.
Looking stale and having to smush down some cold black eyed peas because I wasn't getting up until they were finished.
Right.
But we do that with our children with superficial things, but things that will matter to them, like their sexual education is very important because you don't want some grown man, and then we're learning a grown ass woman giving your child the wrong information.
Oh, like you get pregnant from eating chicken.
Yeah.
She says now her daughter is older and she comes to her when she has questions. So you have to open the door so they can walk through when they get ready precisely.
And don't push it on them, but when you see them getting uncomfortable, say this enough for the day. We'll come back to this. Yeah. And actually come back and because then that creates a dialogue. And like you said, when he first, wanted to learn more, he went and got a book. Yeah. Well, you had opened that door for him. So if something in that book didn't sound right, or somebody had did something to him, just know he probably would, in most cases, would have came to you. And your child would have came to you. And one of the things that I don't like is how we treat our young men differently than our young women when we talk about this. We have to stop teaching our young men that sex is a conquest, that is a victory.
Oh, yes, for sure. For sure.
And we have to stop treating our women as if this is just this
filthy,
incense and shade thing experience. And it's not, baby. This is how life continues.
We teach men that sex is a conquest. Mm-hmm. We teach women that it is this mysterious thing, that it is a duty, it is a chore, that your sexuality is something to cling to and hold tightly like a treasure. And I'm not saying it like it is not, because you're basically you shouldn't be giving yourself away like free tickets to the movie. That's not what I'm saying.
Both of them separate information.
You're giving it 2 different ways, I'll say. You should teach both that your body is sacred and that it should be cherished. However,
not everybody is deserving of it.
Hey, grandson, how's your love life? How many women you got? And you shouldn't say to your granddaughter, now, granddaughter, hey, you leave them boys alone. You need to focus on your education. That's wrong.
So now that woman becomes a challenge to that man. And we can get into the whole like same sex, because even in the same sex community, it's still the same hangups. You still have the same level of inexperience or information that's not false. But across the board, if you don't have the answers, if you don't have the verbiage, I need your old ass to get on YouTube or somewhere and get the information to be able to tell your children, because we are giving our children cell phones at the dumbest youngest ages,
Oh my God.
and not thinking that they can go and find things. I'm gonna tell you, I
Because they
started
can.
before we had a computer in our house, but it was always in the family room
Mhm.
or in my mother's room. So
Mhm.
whenever I could use it whenever I wanted to, but I had to use it always in
And
front of
open.
everybody. What happened to me as a teenager? I got web TV. That means it was personally in my room.
Yeah.
I
You
I
seen
talk
it
about
so
having an
well.
AOL account. I have an
Oh my
AOL
God.
account because I was in those AOL chat rooms.
Yes. You got it all.
And
So
these are grown ass people in this room.
yeah, somebody showed my 6-year-old when he was 6 years old. Somebody showed him Two Girls, One Cup.
Yeah.
I was livid. Now, don't get me wrong. I have evolved to a place where I'm open to all brands of kink. Whatever peanut butter is your jelly, I'm here for it. I may not be
I'm sorry,
down
baby.
to
I got
clown.
limitations. That
Yeah,
shit
I
did
may
not
I
appeal
may
to
not be
me at
down
all.
for it. Like I said, you cannot piss on me, but I will gladly piss on you, and that ends the night for us both. But to show my
My Lord.
6-year-old, my innocent baby, that you
That's
may
why
have
I
hurt
said,
him.
so imagine him seeing that at 6. So the
Right,
information that you're giving him is real cotton candy. He looking at you like, "Man, I just saw these two ladies shit in the cup.
right.
What else
Like
you got?"
he might not. Right. It could have turned him one way or the other. Because I know I saw some
He out
things.
here shitting on people. Please don't be shitting on people, baby. Please don't. Please, don't do it. That is,
Changed him
even
one
if
way
they
or
want it,
another.
don't do it. That ain't the woman for
Yeah,
you.
that's not
You
the
gotta
that's
shit
not the
on her.
move. You know what I mean? But you just gotta be you gotta be careful
That
of what
ain't
the
the
people
one
in the
for you,
chat are
baby.
respond. Yeah, no, like I mean, but I don't know. Let me think.
Mm-mm.
What's a thing that I've become more open to here lately in my old age?
Mm.
I'm
I,
gonna say
go ahead.
pegging. Like I'm not interested. I do not want to peg a man. That's not
Is
something
it
that
is it a curiosity
I'm
on
not
any
even
level?
I'm not curious about it because I understand it.
Uh-huh.
But I've gained an understanding of it without judgment. Like before, I'm like, oh my gosh, why would why don't that make him gay? No, it doesn't make him gay. It
You
just
just
means
not. You just not at that point yet.
I have no interest in pegging a gentleman at all.
Okay.
I understand it is all it is basically is an internal prostate massage. Like if he gets
So
off
more
on it,
levels
then
of
he gets off.
taboo. The hood taboo is where your understanding is now.
What do you mean
So,
hood
so
taboo?
like, cause there's taboo, but then there's like hood taboo, like pegging. Like I think that's on the level of hood taboo right now because men are not willing to admit that there's a pleasure in it.
Like you mean like for a long time men wouldn't admit that they like getting their assholes ate.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
men's like shit.
it's still I still have straight friends who still I could tell in their eyes they've either had it before or they've been told how it felt and they want it. And
I know they still made guys who did not getting their assholes licked up.
Yeah, they still it's a certain age
they late.
group. Right. That's
they
what I said.
late to the party then.
It's a certain age group it's like a little window where when you're young, you like, okay, I can do that. But it's a certain age group in like that mid-30s to like mid-40s that's like, maybe if the right person come in my life, I might do this shit, but I ain't gonna talk about this shit.
I don't know them because them mid-40s, early 50s, they down the clown all the way.
Well, that's because a lot of them are talking to them 20-somethings, or they talk to a 20-something who'd have turned them out. Or that's the one that dates the stripper or dates the the hot
salad tossing. Some of them will do digital penetration.
Oh, well,
with the finger. Some dudes will let you use a vibrator on their gooch.
Okay. Okay.
So things that used to be hood taboo ain't so hood taboo no more like they used to be.
No, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
on those levels,
Mhm.
you have more understanding now than before. Because even if you being sexually free or in terms of sex or sexuality, people still had hangups.
Yeah,
Like
people do.
men aren't men, your pleasure is there and that's it.
For men.
I remember a moment where, a dude getting his nipples like that's some gay shit. That's some gay shit. Now you people are expressing that this makes me feel good. This makes me
Yeah.
feel like it tingles. And I like this. But
But
a
what
lot
is
of
that about
people,
for men?
uh,
Why
it's
is it
all
that
attached to your manhood, and it's a false narrative that many of us were shown and given. That
you're frozen? I can hear you, but you're frozen.
am I frozen? Can you hear
Yeah.
me now?
I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Okay, I'll just keep talking. But
Okay.
it's just attached to our manhood, and it's a sad thing that many of us are still in that. And I see a
And
lot of men who want to be out of it who can't.
so that you're masculine. So you cannot be masculine if you have feelings of any kind, whether they are pleasure or sadness.
Dudes are allowed to feel angry
And that's it.
and cool.
Oh shit, that's too much. That's too much pressure on a dude.
So
Like
for
I
me
don't.
to be like, yay, it's a dude that's been able to cross over that is allowed to do that. Just, let's do something as simple as wearing skinny jeans. Until Lil Wayne and them started doing it and it became a drug dealer thing, these men wasn't wearing clothes that was fitted. And it's weird. Men are such a group think gender. It's sad.
You know
But
what,
a
man?
lot of that is attached to how we were raised and the things that we said. Putting on chapstick. I've heard women say, man who wear chapstick, who put chapstick on, he better put that shit on his finger first. Like
What?
men who take baths, men who put on lotion, like shit like, and then you look and see this nigga always ashy. Well, somebody told him it was gay for him to put a little jerkins on his elbow, a little
That
shea
makes
butter
me
around his
sad.
ankle. Like somebody told him he was gay.
That
And
makes
gay
me
has
so
been turned
sad.
into such a
It's a weaponized word.
weaponized word that it's not.
That makes me so sad. A man can't enjoy supple skin.
Yeah,
That makes me
there
sad.
were things that
That makes
naturally
me sad.
I like. So when I started hanging around hood individuals, I was a weirdo because
That
at a
makes
young
me
age,
sad.
my mother would go to Mondawmin to get her feet done, and one day the little Asian lady ain't had nothing to do; they was empty. She said, "Let me do your feet." And every day, every time my mother would go, she would take me and a little Asian lady. If she wasn't busy, she would do my feet too. So as an adult male, I started getting my feet done, and
Yeah.
it was normal for me. And it was my mother didn't say anything uncomfortable about it or nobody, but people in the salon would look.
So
But as I
like
became a man, they still look like I see them side eyeing me in the chair, and I just say, "Hey, how you doing?" Just to break
yeah.
the tension. You want your man to have soft feet so he ain't fucking up your sheets or your legs in the
Ah
middle of the
man,
night.
you better talk about it.
But
So he ain't
we
gotta get
we
in your
would
bed with socks on.
yeah, and all that huff. But that them socks you got to take them off because that socks he go from his feet are wet and then he put them in the
That's
sock.
athlete's foot. Ugh.
That's athlete's foot and that husk. That's where that
Mm,
hard ass heel come from.
mm.
But again, we are taught to be real linear in what we are able to enjoy.
But you know what? You make a valid point when you talk about like that. You either angry or you cool,
Yeah.
and it brings to mind the fact that to me, wow, you just pulled something out. Like I think a black man's smile is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I think it is such a wonderful thing to me
And you
to see a
pause when you
black
see it because it's not.
yes, to see a black man smile. Oh my gosh, don't get a black man to smile and like get a belly laugh, like a ha ha,
Yeah.
one of them
Mm-hmm.
throw your head back and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift. And
That's why
now that
when
you
I think
mention
when a
it,
lot
it's
of
because you
women
don't
meet
see
men
it.
like that, they want to be friends with that person. Maybe not want to be with him, but because that's not a norm. That's not a norm in male-female relationships where you get a man who can, you know, be comfortable with themselves. It's even for me, I've always, and I say this a lot, most of my friends have always been women for whatever reason. I understand what it is, but even when it comes to straight men, it's uncomfortable. So when they find a friend, they got a friend. And that's why normally you don't see many men break off from their friends until they get a relationship. And that woman requires that. But when they have a friend, that's their friend because it's hard for them to relate and be comfortable in their skin.
I don't like that a woman causes a man to break off from his friends. That shouldn't. Does that happen?
Because she
for
doesn't
real?
want him to be with single people or anybody that would, in her mind, and this is this conversation, bring him away from her, like cheat or bring other women around, or
that means she ain't got
an
nothing going on in
insecurity.
her life. But anyway,
Yeah, it's just an
that's a
insecurity
whole
based
nother
on
conversation.
what she right.
That's a
But
whole
it's
nother
just,
conversation.
and I've been waiting to have a conversation like this because sexuality is such a big part of all of our lives. Like I know a lot of us who have been doing what we're supposed to be doing in this pandemic. There were plenty of moments where we've been like, the mailman can get it, the Amazon person can get it, the
You humping on
Grubhub
the edge of
person
the
can
chair
get
like,
it.
oh yes, couch.
Right.
Yes, couch.
Right. And we deny it so much, but many of us are not comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
And I specifically know I teach elementary school, and they are some hot ass individuals in that school.
You talking to teachers, the parents, or the students?
No, I'm talking about the children.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about we thought just middle school and high school, but elementary school, these children have walked in on stuff.
Yeah, because their parents are yeah.
Movies have sex in it, like real sex.
And it's not like it was when we was little. Like you remember the movie? You remember the movie Purple Rain? Okay, I remember they had that one little scene.
That's nothing compared to what we see.
My mother used to cover my eyes whenever that scene was on, or would make me leave the room completely. Parents don't do that no more. No. If the movie was rated R, I couldn't watch it.
But see, now everything is such a blurred line. And I just remember, and as much as my mother didn't give me, my mother, I think because I was a boy and my mother had 6 brothers, he will figure it out. But even having 6 uncles, like on both sides, I had 3 uncles on this side and 6 uncles on this side. Like nobody ever said, "Hey, this is what it's gonna be." I just would, and I purposely would walk in when they was having sex. I knew when I saw the little lady, drift in the house. Okay, give them about 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna walk in.
Gonna be.
Right. So that curiosity, I've always been curious, and I think a lot of young men are curious, but you have to guide curiosity.
You do.
You cannot let curiosity just run free because not every young man is capable of freely being open and exploring. Because curiosity will lead you to places that,
baby, what you talking about?
It's not, honey, and that's men and women. But I think we need to start paying a little bit more attention while paying attention to our young ladies and having them in the same room having conversation. I just went to all boys school, so that's why sex ed was always a bunch of boys in a room. But I knew what these boys were doing in the locker room to each other. I knew what they were talking about with each other. I stopped doing wrestling because it turned into this way of this aggression for some of these people to get it out of their system. And I was like, no.
Yeah, I'm not doing this with you.
Yeah, I'm not doing. We're not doing that. I'm done. Let me go back over to the theater department.
I know that's right.
But I really think, I'm always very curious as to how parents talk to their children, especially their male children, about sex. But this Aretha movie and her story is making me, because there were parts and parts of the book where she people interviewed talk about her experiences, when people talk to her, about certain things, but nobody probably ever talked to that girl about sex.
I mean, but that's just like in The Color Purple. It was like in The Color Purple, Celie described sex as he got on top of me and did his
Did his
business.
business. Because her stepfather, or the man who she thought was her father, did the same thing. So
Right.
just understand the lineage of that. So that's
Yeah.
all. Sex was a baby making tool, and
Yeah.
that's how some people
Some
look at
women
it.
do look at it like that. I'm here for the pleasure, honey. I'm trying to tell you, I'm here for you to get yours 110%. Like I'm
You
getting
got to
ready to
get yours
pursue.
as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to pursue certification so that I can coach people to finding their happy place all over the place, honey.
But
So
that's that. You go. I think you need to go. Just become a therapist. Just go all the
yeah.
way and become a therapist because it goes deeper than that.
It really,
It's so much
really
deeper.
does. It really does. Like you just be surprised how many things can truly shape your sexuality, like
Hmm.
your thought processes towards sex and touch and intimacy and relationships. Like
You can give them the
it's amazing.
roadmap. You can give them the region, the general area. But what is standing between them and that general area is whatever trauma, insecurities, fears, bad information, false
Mhm.
information, no information that they've gotten up until that point.
All
So
of the
there's a
things, and then you
big.
got the culture, the subcultures
Hmm.
within Chad, we could talk forever and ever and ever about it.
Hmm.
But
I mean, it definitely. I've been waiting for this conversation with the sexologist, but it is.
I'll
I,
take
I
it.
think
I'll
I
take it.
think one of the misconceptions is men don't have those problems
Oh yeah,
because
that's a lie, and the truth ain't in.
even the men who are pushed and coached into those situations, they're not. They somebody didn't hold their penis and put it in. Well, in some
Right,
cases,
like with
probably.
the men I've been
But
fucking since I was 6 years old. My first girl I ever fucked was 18, and I was 6. Sir, you
and
were
what was you
raped as a
doing?
child.
Right, you were raped as a child, but
You
what
was
were you
raped as
really
a
doing?
child.
You wasn't really doing
You
anything.
weren't
You
doing
wasn't. You
You were
wasn't. You
molested.
wasn't giving that child that adult pleasure.
Right,
You were
that
just
adult took
fulfilling a
advantage of
sick.
you.
Right, you was fulfilling a sick fantasy that person had. But
Yeah,
even that, like you wasn't doing nothing, boo. I
yeah.
had plenty of men talk about I was breaking backs when I was like 11. No, you wasn't. Because you ain't even know how to come real good. If you were coming at that age.
It felt real good to you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. So listen, everybody, we've been talking so much, we ain't have an opportunity to sip cocktail first. But I promise you, we're gonna make up
And
for it
some
next week
water.
when we get the rest of our family back here. I don't know, maybe they got lost on the road, but it was good
They
sitting here.
probably watching. They probably
They
like they couldn't
probably
handle this
was.
conversation.
It's all good. This was a grown folks meeting in there. But anyway, y'all, this has been your fabulous feline auntie KK and your good
Mm.
next door neighbor Nate. Sitting over here chatting and chewing, but we gotta go because mother said we got to. So
Oh, see you later.
out of here. We'll see y'all next week on the Cocktail Social. Until then, be good, and if you can't be good at it. Not
Oh, I meant that I got down.
yes,
I
do.
gotta be good at it.
Yeah, be good at it.
Wear your mask. And it's still real.
It's very real.
Oh my God, my